Hi, it's Kim. Today I'm bringing you a process video using this sketch, which is the October Challenge sketch for 49 and Market. My layout's got made using the vintage artistry in the Leaves collection, and I'm scrapbooking that photo of my son on his 15th birthday when we were visiting Arrowtown in the South Island of New Zealand, and I got him to pose in the autumn leaves, which were just beautiful. So as I said, I'm using the In the Leaves collection. The base paper that I'm using is autumnal. The colours in these papers are just gorgeous, and using a sketch means that a layout comes together really easily because all you have to think about is what you're going to use, not where it's going to be on the layout. So what I'm doing here is creating a layered papers or embellishments underneath the photographs. So in the sketch, you'll recall there were two photographs sitting side by side just at an angle. I've decided I'm going to use that one photograph, including with the new stitched frames, and the second photograph I'm going to replace with a journaling spot so that I can write some details about the photo. So you can see there that I've used a backing piece from the frames set, and this is a journaling piece which I have cut out, inked the edge, and I'm slotting in there. So you can see that that's going to replace my second photograph. And this is the photo of my son slotted in with the frames. So the layers underneath will just peep out around the sides to give some colour behind the photo and separate it from the background. I'll also add some little ticket pieces and other ephemera pieces in around the edges and between the photograph and the journaling block. So I'm just distressing and inking the edges of all of these pieces to give them a rougher textural look, and then the inking helps tie them in with the rustic tones of this collection. So just some more ephemera pieces there. And then that little tie at the bottom is actually from the new whitewashed frames, chipboard frames that are coming out, I think, soon. And they have these gorgeous little dangly tag bits out of chipboard that come with those frames. And so I've just used one at the bottom of this photo/journaling cluster. So now what I'm going to do is do some sort of layering, simple mixed media work in the background. So I'm using some of the gorgeous washi tape from the In the Leaves collection, and I'm just tearing pieces of that and building it up around where the photo cluster will be on the page. So this is my first layer in this background work. So you can see I'm just tearing off chunks, making them sort of the right shape. They're quite irregular with rough edges. I'm not matching up any patterns or anything, but basically the washi tape will sit below the leaf cluster, below the cluster of embellishments in the top left and bottom right corners, and then it's going to curl round on the right side of the photo/journaling cluster. I'm just using a little bit of the ink that I inked the edges of everything with, the same ink, and smushing, is that a word? The edges along the edge of the washi tape so that it blends in more with the background paper, because I don't want it to stand out completely. The purpose of the washi is just to add some text and texture behind the photos without adding a lot of bulk, because I don't want my layouts to be too thick because they need to fit into my album. So you can see there that the text on the washi is just giving more interest to that background. Now I'm going to use some stamps from Always Together stamp set. So that's sort of like a journal ledger sort of stamp, this one. And so I'm just putting that again over the washi tape in the areas where there will be clusters of embellishment in that top left and bottom right corner. And then I've added another sort of a bit along the bottom edge of the photo of where the photo journaling will be. Then I used another stamp from that collection, so the Always Together stamp set, just to add some more little bits around where that ledger stamp was. And so again, this is all just about creating texture and interest without adding bulk. So now I'm going to use some of the splotch rub-on transfers from the In the Leaves collection. These, along with all the rub-ons that 49 and Market does, are just beautiful. So I've picked a selection of those, and again, they're going in that top left and bottom right corner to create those layers that will be in, around and below the clusters of embellishments in those spots. So I'm just picking a number of the different colours out of those rub-on transfers and rubbing them in all those different spots. I simply use my thumbnail to rub these off. They go on so easily, and it's really not a big effort. There is a tool that comes in with the rub-on transfers, but I find that I don't need to use it. So I was just using some paper towel there to make sure that there was no extra ink. I did use a permanent ink so that if I were to add any wet mixed media, it wouldn't run or anything. But just making sure, I think it was just a little bit sticky because I used maybe a tad too much in some spots. Just adding a little bit more rub on there. And then I believe I'm going to add some gold paste to this. Yes, I'm using a stencil, which is just a varied mini dot stencil. It's actually a Tim Holtz one, and I love this for boy layouts. I use it a lot. And I'm just using a stencil brush and a gold paste, which is from Vicky Booten. This paste looks so good with this range. Gold works so well with the beautiful colours that are in this fall range. So I'm just adding little splotches of that gold paste. So I'm not using the whole stencil, just bits and pieces of it, again, in those spots where the embellishment clusters are going to be. So it'll peep out around the edges of those embellishment clusters, just to give a little bit more detail. Again, another layer of interest without too much bulk. So now I'm putting a little bit of the paste on my mat. So this is a glass mat, and that's my mixed media mat on the side there. I add a little bit of water to it, and now I'm adding some splatters, again, in those same spots. Again, another layer, another bit of interest. So I just move my way around the layer, adding splatters. It's always a good idea when you're adding splatters to turn your layout so that the splatters fall in at different angles and you get good coverage where you want them. So I'm just working my way around there. I just tap my brush off with my finger to get those splatters to fall. Always use a round brush too, which will make help ensure your splatters come off the brush easier because it can hold more water. And always make sure you clean up your brushes and stencils quickly after using paste, otherwise they'll dry in it and it will ruin them. So I did cut that bit out of the video, but I cleaned up straight away. Again, just rolled over my paper towel there, and you could see that beautiful glimmer and shine on the paper. I mean, the papers are gorgeous anyway, but I think the little bit of gold and the stamping and the washi tape just bring even more interest to the beautiful backgrounds. So I am going to glue down now. I'm going to cut out a lot of this. Oh no, I think I leave in this section of the gluing down, but I may take out some of the other gluing down later on in this video. But what I'm doing now is I'm just gluing back that cluster of layers of paper that's underneath the photos. And I like to do this wherever I can, separate from the background, because that means once it's all together, I can move it around and make sure I get it in exactly the right place before I glue it permanently to the background paper. So this is loose at the moment, so I'm gluing these layers down to create this cluster, and then I'm just going to be able to shift it around, make sure I get it in exactly the right place before I attach it permanently. With the frame here, because I've used layers of foam tape so that the photo does pop up off those background pieces, and I'm trying to get the frame to just stick on the edges of the photo, which it didn't really want to cooperate, so I end up building up the edge of that frame with just a little bit of foam tape as well, so that ensures that it's all held in place and that it's not going to go anywhere. So just sticking those in. So the photo ended up being 2 layers because there's one layer below the journal block and then 2 layers below the photo, so it stands up even more from the journal block. And then I'm putting these ephemera pieces. So these are from the In the Leaves ephemera pack. Just popping those in beside the photo. That little chipboard tag piece that I spoke about earlier and some little more ephemera pieces here. And that piece, I believe, is finished. A little bit more glue, make sure everything's really well attached down, and it's ready to be moved around as I create the embellishment clusters at the top left and the bottom right. Now in this sketch, they're flowers, but I'm doing a layout of my 15-year-old son, so I don't want flowers, but in this collection are the most gorgeous acetate leaves. Now some of these are clear with the colour and some have a white background with the colour, and so I'm just picking a selection of those to get the look that I'm after. And I am, instead of flowers, using those leaves, and you can see that they're layered up in and over that previous mixed media work that I did with the washi tape, the stamps, the paste and the splatters, and then the leaves on the top. And that mixed media work just peeks out around the leaves, and if the leaves are clear, you could even see some of it through the leaves. There's detailed shots of this layout at the end of this video where you'll be able to see better that mixed media work and how it works with the leaves. So you can see here I'm just gluing down now that I've decided exactly where this photo cluster is going to go. And then I glued down all of the leaves, and I've just used a wet glue. I like art glitter glue, works really well with these acetate pieces. So they all stuck down, and now I'm putting the title pieces at the bottom. So I've used 2 ephemera pieces to create the title, which is in the same spot as the title in the sketch. I stick that love down, and then I do believe I pull it back up and go, I should have inked it. And I ink it with the same ink that I've been using, which is a distress ink that I've been using on this layout. So just quickly dash around and stick that back down. And now I'm going to ink the edges of the whole layout just to pull the layout together. This is always very difficult to capture in still photos because getting it square, you generally end up cutting off the edge. So it's good that you can see in the video that the little bit of inking around the edge makes a difference to how the layout finishes coming together. So just checking things out there and happy with how it's looking so far, and I'm going to add my journaling. I am a strong believer in journaling on scrapbooking layouts because when I look back at my layouts now, it's the journaling that I love to read and the memories it brings back with the photographs. So just add a few words about where the photo was, what it was for, and the date. And now I'm just sticking some of the wishing bubbles and trinkets from that range, so from the In the Leaves collection, down around each of those areas of embellishment clusters. And I've put a little butterfly, orangey yellow butterfly there on the side near where the mixed media work was in the top. So those splotches of the rub-on transfers, because you'll recall in the sketch there was like a line of bobbly texture behind the photos that ran from the top right to the bottom left corner. So that butterfly's up near there. And just a few more of these really cute epoxy stickers, the wishing bubbles and trinkets. And I believe that layout is done. So as I said, there's some still photos to come. Thanks very much for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed watching this process video, and I will be back with you again soon. Thank you.